Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of y'all, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I want to thank you for coming through. And before I say anything about the actual topic, I'm going to state right off the bat, for those that don't know, that right now the Cash App has been I can't use that to go to the salaries of the employees like I initially promised. So I can either let it sit until I go to the States or until the workaround becomes available, which might actually happen. Or the other thing is that now, if anybody does send anything and you stipulate it for a purpose, then I will either hold it for that purpose, but it may be delayed, or I will run an experiment with a possible workaround, but it is unproven. Anyway, that being beside the point, before I address the topic of the gender war being done, I will say that this weekend has been been a major pain in my ass. For me, the weekend is already half over because our weekends are Friday and Saturday, and it's Friday night here. Weekend is all. It's been a major F up from the time I got off of work yesterday. Went to pick up a rental car because I was going to go and see my brethren, Mr. Hausawi and B Deep, maybe even catch up with them together at the same time. I'm mentioning this not because I'm venting my frustration. I'm mentioning this because I want you guys to understand every time I see evidence of something I've told you before, I should share it with you because of what I told you previously. And I already said to you that it is not okay. It is not okay for Black people to sit up and say something like, well, only Black people. Nope, it's not okay for us to do that. There's a few exceptions, but the general rule is that's not even an okay statement to make because it's not even likely to be true. The exceptions are too rare for, as a rule, for that to be okay. So let's get that mess out the way right for the mucking now. No, it's not only Black folks. Whenever you have any level of dysfunction at anywhere regarding anything. The next thing I'm going to tell you knuckleheads is that I'm joking. Y'all aren't knuckleheads. I'm teasing. But Next thing I'm going to state is that, see, I went to a rental car agency, and in this rental car agency, it is locally run. And here's the other thing about it: the rental car agency uh, has a fleet of Chinese cars, and there's more specifically the Chang'an brand. The Chang'an car companies cars make up the bulk of their fleet. That's a problem. Why do I say that? The issue with the Chang'an cars is that they're cheap. I mean, I had to go through a whole lot. First, I got a lemon. So that means I wasn't going to be able to make the trip to Riyadh like I wanted. Secondly, I went back, got it replaced after a whole lot of waiting and waiting and even more waiting. Then they finally agreed to replace it, and then they gave me a 2023, and it was a lemon too. So early this morning, when I after ascertaining it, I mean it was late last night by the time I got the replacement. So took it home, double checked something else, found out it's the same thing. It's not going to make the trip to Riyadh, even though it's a 2023. So early this morning, I got up, wasn't able to sleep well, walked in when it was still open, gave the paperwork to the front desk, the keys to the maintenance workers who do the intake, and told them, leave me the hell alone. I told them if I got any money coming back in, send that. Do not send me any more messages on my phone, none of that. We would not run a rental car company this way. It's not something we would do. And if we were to have a car company, we wouldn't sit up here with all that we've been through. We wouldn't even be willing to put out a line of cars wherein just all of them are going to start off with the tire warning light coming on and something else, transmission slipping. And we're not going to try to gloss over it if we find out about this. We know better. A few years ago, I think we would have. But you know what I do believe has changed? And that has been the Black manosphere. We have pretty much said, you know what? It is okay, Black man, for you to not be a trifling stereotype. And as a matter of fact, what is it that means you have to be one? What is the only enforcement to this rule that you must be a trifling stereotype? You have some things that Master Zaddy is going to do because you're not one, but you don't even have to stay under him. At least not any more than any other group of people would have to stay under him. And so what's the next enforcement? Oh, that's right. Boom Shika and Bonquisha and Sophista Ratchet Sapphire all want you to become celibate, non-reproductive. And they will even so much as try to come to you with other men's babies if you decide to not be a stereotype. So, you know what? You don't have to stay under her either. There's a Black manosphere that came about and said that. And it's taken some time for us to come through certain steps of understanding. I mean, 2020, y'all had me worried because some were just about to lean so far to the right, politically speaking. I don't mean right as incorrect. I just mean not the left. So far into that I was worried about a few of us becoming Republicans and conservatives. But you found your balance. This was not something that I had seen Black men of any nationality do. None. I've not seen us do something like that so quickly, but we did. By the time 2020 ended, many of us had gotten at least back to what is central for us. So I'm proud of you in the Black manosphere. You red pill aware Black men, I'm proud of you. Now, as far as the gender war goes, BGS got me to thinking. I'm not in a position to know if the gender war is over or not. And I have to admit this. I haven't lived in the States for a long time. when a Japanese soldier, was stationed in the South Pacific for quite a while. This Japanese soldier really, honestly and truly, through no fault of his own, did not know after he got separated from his brigade or platoon or squadron. I'm not sure what the term would be, but after he got separated from his group or his company, still not sure what the term would be. The point is, he really would not have known. He was separated. He would not have known if if the war was over, if it wasn't. Eventually, somewhere in the early 2000s or 2010s, he was discovered. And he said that he is not going to cease doing anything militarily until a commanding officer up his chain of command that he can recognize informs him that the war is over. And one of them was reached and came to inform him, yes, for decades the war has been over. Japan has not been to war since then. Come home. Your job is done, soldier. Your duties are done. You are relieved of your duties. Well done. He was repatriated. He got back to Japan. Now, mind you, he went to the Japan of, I think, the early 2010s, because I remember hearing something about cell phones. That soldier said that this was not the Japan he knew, and it was not the Japan for which he fought in the war. Shouts out to Chaos Rain, Roger Spice, Line to MGTOW, the black question mark, misanthropic altruist. Oh, oh God, to Tiger Blood. Thanks for giving me that feedback on the music, Tiger Blood. Oh man. Okay, the black question mark said the gender war is over because gasoline is $7 a gallon. A one-bedroom apartment is $2,000 a month. The average price for a new car is 50 grand, and a new home is 500 grand. Now, I don't know if the average price for a new car is 50 grand, but I'm going to tell you guys something. Somebody told me that in Malaysia for 10,000 ringgit, you could get something decent. It's not going to break on you. I'll let you look up how much 10,000 ringgit is in US greenbacks. So in any case, the soldier went back. He was kind of shocked. He went through more than what I've ever been through, because when I went back for the first time in 2015 for my first visit, the gender of individuals was questionable. Everybody was saying, you don't really know who it is that's really a lady and who was born a guy that became a lady. You don't really know. And that was also the summer at the end of which I married a lady in North Africa. And some people said, why would you marry a widow with kids in North Africa? And at the time, I knew nothing of the black manosphere, very little red pill information. But I wasn't no childless man either. And so my answer was, well, do you not understand that where you are in the States, you don't know if you're marrying a guy? If you did not know her in childhood, you don't know if you're marrying a guy. And do Western women want to marry men that they have known since childhood? Roger Spice came back, 2,092 United States dollars and 71 cents. That is 10,000 ringgit in Malaysia. Can you buy a car that is reliable in the United States for that amount of money? I bought one for that once. Transmission began slipping about 2 weeks after I bought it. It turned out that it just needed a higher octane gas, but I didn't know that at the time. No way for me to know. All right. I am not in a position to know if the war is over. I'm not in a position to argue for you or against you, whichever one you say, or to argue for or against BGS, whichever one he says. Now, I am in a position to say that BGS is not a liar. He has predicted things that have turned out to be the case. He is not a prophet. He has not claimed to be a prophet, but he has still been able to predict certain things. And as a man that's not his age, but I'm still old, I understand how that can happen. You see certain things play out in history. One day you're old enough to where certain things that kids are reading about in history textbooks are things that you actually saw and watched occur. And that's what has happened in this case. It's happened to me. It's happened in BGS's case. To me, the civil rights struggle is history. To him, he saw it play out in real time on television and sometimes in real life. The impetus and the things for which there had to be a civil rights struggle, such as some of the violence he saw play out or avoided or escaped. My grandfather did. He does not make these things up. He sees certain things that have happened. He makes a prediction as to what is coming down the pike. And he usually will say, at the rate things are going now, that's where we're headed. We could change course, but if we don't, that's where we're going. The courses don't change. We wind up there. He has a reason for saying that it's over. I understand that you would know better than me. And the other thing, too, is that you see, for that soldier that was separated from other soldiers for decades in the South Pacific, it was never over because he was not informed. Everyone does not get informed at the same time. Nowadays, with electronic information, it is quick, but it is not instantaneous. It is not at the same time. In previous days, it took weeks for people to find out. Even Juneteenth is based on that. The holiday that began in Texas and became a federal holiday is based on the length of time it took news to travel when a war was over. The thing is this, I had to examine myself. See, I don't want to fight the gender war. That's not natural. It's not normal. Other groups of people don't have to. Other species don't generally have to fight a gender war. But what I do understand is that other groups of people are about to have to. Some of them are going to wind up having to fight a gender war of their own. Maybe the gender war is simply changing location. Maybe it's not. These are things I'd have to learn from you guys. You live there. I only visit, and the last time I visited was over 2 years ago. What I can say is this. In order for it to stay over, if the fighting is over, if there is a ceasefire, it could be the end of the battle, it could be the end of the war. It could be either one. But in order for the ceasefire to last, we cannot drop our guard and lay down the weapons we have. We can cease firing them because we don't have to, but we cannot lay down the weapons, so to speak, drop our guard, think everything's going to go back to what it was. Even BGS has said that it's not going back to what it used to be. Not soon. I also want to tell you all about a guy that I knew back in elementary school. White boy named Randy. That's his real name. I don't know if it was Randall or Randy. I don't know. Don't care. He taught me a lesson. He used to get bullied by the second biggest kid in the class and the biggest black boy in the class. He would bully others, though. He'd try. He would feign like he was going to hit them. And if you eventually stop flinching or ducking or blocking, then he'd land a punch one day. He would do this with me, and I would never just drop my guard and act like he ain't gonna do nothing. I never did that. And he would always say, "You're such a pussy. I'm not really going to hit you. I'm just playing." He was one of those guys, fourth grade, but one of the white boys with a square jaw. Now in high school, he tried to do this to another black classmate, small guy, Muslim fella, friend of mine from childhood. We were now in high school. I got up in that boy's face and said, "Stop messing with him." He was like, "Back off, black. We're not kids anymore." And I told him, "Yeah, I know. And you outnumbered." See, he and I, we can't wait to meet Allah and take you with us. I wasn't Muslim at the time, but this was a childhood friend of mine. I knew a few basic things. And he smiled. He said, "I'm playing, right?" And I was shocked. I mean, he gave up. I thought he was going to swing on me because we're talking high school. All he knew was fourth grade. He'd act this way. But the point is that when he would do these things in fourth grade, he would wait till you dropped your guard. Then he would land the punch. Do you see where I'm going with this? He didn't do this to me because I never dropped my guard. And one day I just picked up a pencil and pointed at him. He realized he was going to get stabbed. And so what I do want to say though is that whether this ceasefire is and the waving of the white flag is actually the end or not really depends on us not so much shooting. I'm not saying that, going on the offense. It's like one of you said in the chat, black men ain't trying to hurt black women, but it does depend on us not going back to the table. They want to go back to the table. And there are a few things we have to, when I say we don't drop our guard, we would have to do a few things. One, don't go back to the table. Now, for the ones in their 20s, in the early 20s, I'm not sure. I don't really know. I can't call it. I wouldn't recommend it, but I really can't call it. I admit, if there's a potential for a lady to change, of course, it would be at that age. And I'm not even sure about then. I also know that not dropping the guard means we don't even entertain that for women that are in there. Let's say I'm saying 28, maybe somebody else will say 30, but I'll say 28 to be on the safe side. 28 and up, we don't even consider going back to the table. When they start saying, "Well, what is it that you men want?" Come on, that I don't buy. They may be saying, "What do you want today?" But as far as what men want, they already know. They refused to offer what it is that men in general want. They said, "We're never going to do that." They spent decades saying that we don't deserve that. A good looking woman, and we never demanded that a woman look good to every man the way they do that a man be attractive to every other woman, all of her friends, so she could be the end. Well, we never demanded that. We would say that what we had, generally speaking, wanted was for good looking women to treat us well. And if we're responsible, then we wanted them to follow our program since we're going to be accountable anyway. And they always hold us accountable. So that meant, yeah, pretty much look good to me, treat me well, submit to me. That's what we would say. No, they pretty much said, "Why, if I look this good, why would I do that for you?" Then it was, "If I look half this good, why would I do that?" We saw it progress from bad to worse. And so I would say that for 28 or over, don't even consider going to the table. When they say, "Would you even just come to the table?" Say, "Okay, well, here's the thing about the table. The table is not located in the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Israel, Western Europe. None of these first world cushy nations to which these ladies like to go. It ain't even located in Dubai." No, it ain't even located there. No, take it to Sharjah. which is right next door, but very conservative. The table is not located in these places. The table is now located in specifically parts of Africa where feminism is like a persona non grata. Shuck that fit. That the reaction feminism gets is no, shuck this fit. Keep it over there. Places like northern Nigeria, so far. I wouldn't even say rural South Africa, because there in rural South Africa, there's still a problem in which single childless men are expected to take care of other men's kids, baby mamas, somebody else's baby mama, still expected to do that. I'm like, no, man, shuck that fit. So not even there as an example. Nairobi, no, table ain't even there. If you can go there, if Boom Shikan could go to the particular part of Africa and start talking at Yas Queen and they listen, it's not there. Southern Nigeria, it's not there. The table does not exist there. Not even there is there a table. I don't even know about Bahia, Brazil. Not sure. No, the table now, we know the table exists in certain parts of Latin America, Southeast Asia, and some parts of the motherland. That's where the table exists. So if they want to sit at the table and have discussions, it needs to be exactly in the kinds of places where they don't want to go, exactly where the women treat us in the exact same way that they were saying previously they were never going to treat us. No other way. Walaikum salam, cynical optimist. Walaikum salam, Jaws. The ship will sail. We SYSBM support you too. Leave American women, Western women, not out of hatred, but for our own benefit. I would say to you this too, gentlemen. Now, it might have appeared to BGS like I want to fight the gender war. I don't want to, but I can understand why he would think so. I had to stop and think, well, why would I be willing to fight if if a war is over? And the first, the most obvious answer that jumped into my head is, well, dummy, you didn't know it's over. You don't live there. Okay, cool. I didn't know. But the other reason is that I'm not going to front. I'm one of those that got so shell shocked by the war because remember, I didn't realize that war is the right term to call this until a few years ago. What, 2020, I think I started to say that. I was shell shocked by that realization. And so for me, it's not easy to just, it's easy for me to not fire the weapon, but it's not easy to believe that I'm not going to need to fire it sometime soon. It's hard for me to believe that that's going to be the case. Okay, I can lay the weapon down. I ain't so sure about that. If I'm gonna lay that down, at least let me keep a sidearm on me in the meantime, because if I lay that weapon down and somebody else keeps theirs, I'm getting shot. I already know that. It's like Randy. Even if I had choked Randy into submission and he was ready to give up, suppose I let go as soon as he said, "You won, you're done. It's you won." Suppose I let go right at that time and he thought he saw an opening. He, a minute before, might not have been thinking like that. And then he sees an opening again and he says, you know what, let me take this shot. We have to be ready for this. We have to be ready for even those who are serious about not fighting against us anymore to change their minds. If they don't, they don't. Great. But we have to be prepared in case they do. I know that. People have broken ceasefires before, and wars that people thought might be over turned out to not be over. The other thing that has to happen is that in order for the war to truly be over, the propaganda must stop and the laws have to support these laws changing. We're talking penalties for paternity fraud that equal those for actually abandoning your kids. We're talking the actual enforcement child support orders on moms like they are enforced on men. We're talking custody orders actually carried out or enforced when they favor the men, just like they would have been when they favor the women. We're talking men can't get picked up for kidnapping their own kids. We're talking that. A change in the laws, but even more importantly, and thank you all for getting those likes up. I mean that from the bottom of my black heart. But more importantly, that share button. We're talking these things, and with no shame and with no embarrassment. We're talking these things and nothing else. I mean, no less, I should say. That's when I say nothing else, I mean no less. Not some other arrangement meant to derail this stuff. We're talking about these things. And the other thing is calling for the application and the enforcements of these things to be even across the board. And one more thing that we have to push for. What's going on, Gail, at night? It's actually night here, so I have to reply to you with good night. We have to also we have to push for, two more things. One, polygyny needs to be legal. Polyandry still needs to be illegal. Out of the question. Secondly, there need to be penalties for enforcers who don't evenly enforce the custody and the child support rules between the genders. We need to see judges being disbarred if they go easier on mothers in violation of either one. If their records are reviewed and this is found to be a pattern, disbarred. This is necessary. And not only that, but ladies that ain't going to push for specifically these things, including polyandry to be illegal and polygyny to be legalized. And if not legalized on paper, culturally treated like it's legal until they push for these things. They support them. Don't take them necessarily as don't take them as allies. I know a lot of ladies don't like polygyny, but you know what? We've already seen how that plays out. When it's legal, they go for the same men. If it's legal and the ladies are allowed to pursue who they want, and there's no shame in that, they're going to pursue the same men. We've seen this happen. If it's not legal, but they can pursue who they want, they pursue the same men. Our community's DNA to this day is defined by that. So we've already seen that. Now, I'm not saying they got to like polygyny, but they need to push for that to be legalized. No more criminalization of that. Okay, you individually don't like it. Yeah, but you know why it's necessary. Just about every married woman has a friend who can't get married, ain't really a bad person, but doesn't know enough about men. And what are one of the reasons? Because they don't see it as a solution until a woman tells them that it could be a solution. But the main thing is going to be what they push for. Are they going to push for what they want for the brothers they have that they actually love? And the sons they have that they actually love. Are they going to push for the things they want for them before they have their own sons and their own brothers? If they ain't about to do that, how about they fuck the shuck up? There's no table in that case. That ain't all either. Maybe the war is over, maybe it's not, but that's something you guys are going to tell me. You go ahead and feel free to chime in and tell me if it's over. like you all are saying in the comments now, and those who listen to the replay, you can tell me, look, this is where I live and this is what I'm seeing. If it's at least here it's over or it's not over here, feel free. You can school me on that. BGS has schooled me before. Sometimes I school him on things that happen here. What I can say though, and this is not, I'm not even saying that he would turn around and tell you differently. I'm not saying this like he said the opposite. I'm not telling you. But what I am saying is that even if the shots have stopped ringing out, don't drop your weapons yet. Damn sure don't take off your armor. Don't do that. No. If you take your armor off, keep in mind, this is not like a war where everyone has to follow orders from somebody else. Take your armor off, somebody shoots. And when I say take your armor off, I mean dropping your guard, um, letting unknown ladies into your personal business, because y'all work together or things like that. That's no, keep that out. You can't lose with that. If the war is over and you do this, you don't lose. And if the war is not over and you do this, you still don't lose, at least not easily. And I don't tell you to go firing shots literally. I don't necessarily mean that you're going to start slapping anybody because that's the gender war. And I don't even mean you're going to slander someone. But what I do mean when I say keeping your guard up and being ready to fight back, I do mean things like for instance, whatever proof you maintained of your whereabouts and your innocence for certain things, you keep that proof. You don't let that go. Why? Why would I say that? Well, because if you don't, how are you going to prove your innocence later? You see what I mean? When I do talk about the war, though, keep in mind, I've always said that in this war, the best things to do are number one, what Lion of MGTOW is doing. If you are not able to leave the West, look at Lion of MGTOW and you will find, he says it, remain invisible, blend in, maintain an unassuming appearance, nothing flashy, not around them. What's the reason? Lion of MGTOW, you remember when you uploaded Hide Your Success about 2 years ago, plus some months? Hide your success. Succeed, but hide it. Do you remember that line of MGTOW? Camouflage, yeah. Do you remember when you said that? All right. That's one of the ways that you are fighting. You're maintaining stealth. You're flying under the radar. You don't have to hurt anybody necessarily, but that's what you do. You have to fly under the radar. The best thing to do, actually, and I've done this before, especially when I go to visit the States, I don't wear stuff that really makes me look my best. I wear things that help me to look like I'm in okay shape and that don't truly give away my age. They don't depict me as being very young or very old. You just can't tell. My pants are not tight. They're not terribly baggy. My shirts could be anything. Usually they're just designed to keep me cool in the summers when I visit the States. And that's what I tend to wear. I do this even though my wife would say, you look so good when you wear this. I'll say, look, I don't mind if you and I are going out, I don't mind that. But you're talking about here in Saudi Arabia and you and I go out, okay, yeah, fine. As long as it's comfortable, you like it because you're going to wear or not wear what I like. When I say not wear, I mean take off. I don't mean just I'm talking about take off what I tell her to take off. She treats that as a right, so I treat it as one of her rights. That's what I'm getting at. She treats it as a right of mine, so I do the same for her, even though that's not stipulated in the faith. She is not a neglectful wife in the least bit. And so it's different to do that for her. But when I'm moving around, even here by myself, there's a particular way I go under the radar. And the gender war here is not like what it is over there. I'm not sure you could call it a gender war, but I fear that it's coming. But that camouflage really does make a difference for when you're stuck in the West. See, when you're not stuck in the West, you're not stuck, you leave. But when you are, that camouflage helps. That's one of the ways that you fight. You let the blue pill guys remain high profile in the eyes of the women. They're trying. They're going to try. Let them do it. Let them be your smoke screen. When you do succeed and you start to stack so that one day you'll be able to leave in real comfort, you don't let them know you have it. That's the best thing. You know, enigmatic. Let me give him credit for something. He did make a valid point, and I did not think about this. I wasn't aware that they were showing their thirst. I've always known they could feel their thirst, but I wasn't aware that they were showing their thirst. So that's something I'm just now learning from you. I didn't know you guys were facing this. So blending in may not work or going under the radar. I didn't realize that y'all had to deal with that. See, being an ambiguous black man, but ambiguous looking, actually has kind of helped me with this in recent years. When I speak, okay, yeah, that sets off the blackness radar. But just walking, I could just pass by sisters and not say anything, no matter where I go. I've had that happen here, not so much specifically in Saudi, but when I went to the UAE, especially when I was in specifically the city of Dubai. When I was there, I saw some African American women, and I realized I walked past them. They had no clue I was there because I wasn't talking to anybody. So maybe what I'm saying does not apply. Maybe you can't do it when it comes to women that a certain age as easily as you would have before. But you know what? If they're getting thirsty, here's the other thing I wanted to say. Let's say that gender war really is over. I still tell you don't go back to the table for them for a particular reason. Maybe it's actually over, but is the gender war over for the right reasons or for the wrong reasons? I'm going to tell you, if it is over, it is clearly over for the wrong reasons. You all said it. Some of you were saying, yeah, the gender war is over, but that's because of what the cost of everything are. $500,000 homes, 50 grand for new cars. Okay, hold up. If these are the reasons that the gender war is over, it's over for the wrong reasons. It's nothing to go back and talk, nothing to go back to the table about. All you got to say is, we offer in these terms. We're not going to fire shots at you if you aren't firing them at us. But leave us the F alone. We're not coming back to you because we can't trust you. We can't even trust women of other backgrounds that look to you as an example. See, I know the environment could change their behavior. BGS talked about it. Crimson Cure talked about it. Bao called Tyron. You remember that? You know what? Let me put this in the comments too. This here says a lot. Whether it's over or not, again, It is true that negotiations are an extension of war. They can be the end of war, but they're not so by definition. They can either dictate terms of war or terms of surrender. It could be either one. But you guys, you may have to turn around and do a lot more to try to even blend in. End of war or not, you have to do a lot more. Salute, Sir Anthony. What's going on? Now, this did not show up. What I'm going to put on the screen right now did not show up in the chat on YouTube, but I can see it here in the studio. Roger Spice said it has been a covert war. Females fight us with at least 90% deception. Now, Abrahas Grant or Abraxas Grant, I'm not sure which pronunciation is right. Thank you for your compliment. I mean that. I do appreciate that. What you said here, I hope I helped in real life. And if I did, just please share whatever it was that helped you with somebody else that you know will need it. This is the question here. Red Falls Black quoted BGS correctly. Actually, Abraxas Grant, I've generally said that war is deception. But yeah, there was about 2 times I said the sentence that because war is deception, deception is an act of war. And if they're still engaging in deception, consider that an act of war. There are ways that you deceive people of the opposite gender, and it's not an act of war. And I know that. My father used to not tell my mother exactly what time a train or a plane was going to leave. She wouldn't get ready on time if that was the case. He'd get tickets. He lied to, and eventually she realized he wasn't saying the right time, but he still wouldn't tell her no other time. He'd keep the tickets away out of her sight. He'd be like, "Look, I bought these tickets. I'm telling you what time I want you to be ready. Flight's at 12, exactly. Flight be leaving at 12:45." And she sit up and say, "Oh, come on, Black. Why do you have to lie about the time?" He'd say, "Did we get here with time to spare and time to rest?" "Yeah, exactly." I learned to do that, but that's not the type of deception that's an act of war, is it? Are we being deceived in these kinds of ways? We're not being deceived in these particular kinds of ways. The deception that we are facing and have faced before is always to our detriment, even more than it's been to their benefit. They don't deceive you just for their own benefit. They will deceive you just for your detriment, just to shut you out of something that you might enjoy too much for them to tolerate. The war might be over. But the question that BGS asked was actually a very wise one, and I appreciate you reminding me about that. If they did come back to the table, would you want them? I'm telling you that if they come back to the table, you can't even agree that that is the correct table anymore. The location of the table has to be somewhere else for you to even think about it. The reason I'm saying that is also because they're not willing to come back in a condition in which you would want them. Lion 917 said this, so I put it on the screen. No. You wouldn't want them. I'm telling you that it's not even safe. That's what I'm saying to you. Whether you want them or not, it's not safe. Look what the hell it took for the war to be over if it's over. the economy to become the enemy, the very environment to become your enemy, my enemy, and her enemy is not a good reason for her to come along and say, truce, truce, and start waving a white flag. No, man, shuck that fit. We don't do that. See, here, I've had people say the right things for the wrong reasons, and I've talked about that. If we do get into a discussion about race and they start saying certain things that, they're the right things to say, but they're doing it so that I don't fight back with militancy when they carelessly call us slaves, or the Z word in Arabic, which is like the N word in English. When they start with this stuff and I check them on it, they start saying three statements I've talked about before. One, Bilal was black. That's a true statement. Two, that Muhammad, peace and prayers be upon him, said in his last sermon that we start off as equal and that piety is the only thing that makes someone superior or inferior. And that's a true statement. And they'll say we're all slaves of God. And that's a true statement. But then I turn around and I say to them, well, we're also all terrorists against the shaitan, or at least we're supposed to be. But can you stand it when somebody white calls you the T word? I just gave you a true statement. Next time somebody white calls you the T word, don't cry about it. Just say, oh, we're all terrorists against the shaitan, or at least we're supposed to be. Why do I say something like that? Because they're saying the right thing for the wrong reasons. And so what I'm saying is that if it is over, then cool, it's over. We can stop lobbing the grenades and everything else. But what we cannot do is go back to a table at which they're sitting only for the wrong reasons, especially when the table is in the wrong location. There is a table they can occupy at which the willing amongst us can sit and listen. And those tables are in Thailand, the Philippines, Indonesia, Cambodia, maybe Vietnam, Laos. And not only that, but those tables are not in Bangkok and Manila and Kuala Lumpur and Jakarta and Bali. Or I forgot how to pronounce the name of the capital city of Cambodia. These tables are not in these major urban centers either. No, they're in the villages where even we may not want to live, but we know they can't live unless they're really, truly willing to have a revolution within themselves to become something else. Now, if they're willing to do that, then okay. They're willing to do that. That's a sign. And even then, you could look and see how wrong. You could look and see how sincere they are. But that's for any one of you that's going to sit at any table with any of them. That's where the table is located. Northern Nigeria, where they still are strong against feminism by default, even without thinking about the word feminism. Where if a woman does leave her husband because he's marrying another woman, she knows she's going to be single. And the only way she's going to have an orgasm again is either she does it herself or she becomes target practice for young men who want to take a break from chastity. Places like that. Now, why am I talking so militantly? Because I just like to fight? No. Straight men don't just like to fight women. That's obvious. I'm talking like this because I don't want you to lose a fight that you did not know was going on. See, at first, we did not realize what the efforts were. We didn't realize a lot of these things. Just to be honest with you, we did not realize what they were doing. We did not realize the extent to which they were involved in conspiracy. We didn't realize why it was that right here, what Abraxas Grant said, don't want their homegirls to know about it, so they hurl weak ass insults at you about your body. We didn't even realize half the time that that's why they were doing it. And there is an adult elderly version of this too. The most obvious cases are, yeah, when you're a kid, but there's an elderly adult version of something like that too. My answer to that is plain and simple. If you don't realize why they're doing this, there's still deception going on. Ciolette was asked, no. To answer that, no, it can't truly be. Maybe the war could be over. The war could be, but see, there's still an interest in the conflict that they have, even if the war is over. I think that's what it is that's got a lot of people my age weary and leery, even if the war were to be over. He just could be very well right about the war being over, especially in LA where he lives. Like I said, he doesn't lie. If he makes a mistake, it's because he's human. He doesn't tell you things just out the blue. But because the guys that seem like they're just interested in fighting anyway are really men who don't know what it's like to not have a gender war. I vaguely remember it in the 80s, and my perception could be skewed because I was a kid and I just didn't know certain things. But I did witness attitudes get worse. And that's the only young experience I have. If she won't admit to wrongdoing and make restitution, C.L. Edwards has another point. What if she's not willing to make restitution? Well, guess what? Maybe the war is over, maybe it's not, but their interest in the conflict still exists. They're still interested in fighting. And last but not least, we didn't start this war. I've been saying that for the longest. Ain't no straight man starting no gender war, and ain't no man interested in other men starting no gender war. We didn't. And speaking of this, I did want to tell you all something about the golden sphere that is relevant to this. There is a man of black and white parentage in an English-speaking country that is actually advocating for our interest. I'm not going to say his name without his permission yet, but I saw in the community tab. He's done academic studies on feminism and misandry, to be more specific, and who's behind it, and what they want and what the psychological reasons are for this. And if he gives permission, I'm going to go ahead and say what his name is and put links up to the post if I can. I want you all to know, though, that this is to the point where even people who are attempting to set up something for a related population that does not call itself black still would say, no, this is what y'all are going through is not okay. It's that bad. You might remember me mentioning the golden sphere. Do y'all realize that the gender war of the West, and specifically the West's black communities, were the reason that the golden sphere could never become a physical location? They cannot maintain the golden sphere through marriages and births. It's not something they can do. The women, as they would call themselves, golden women, went in with gender warring ideas. Even when they did not hate men, they still went in with certain feminist ideas of entitlement. And some of them went in with full-blown gender warrior ideas. Some went in with those. To answer your question, Jaws, the golden sphere, you might remember me mentioning a population of people with black and white parents, or black and Asian parents, that were looking to, they were, maybe still are, but they were looking to, one, be classified as such in the United States, because they felt that uh, the the black population was offended when they would call themselves black. So they said that they should be counted as a separate category of admixture. And that they should even have cities to which they should gravitate so that they could meet each other more easily and set up physical communities. And that they should stop waiting on new members to come in every time someone white and someone black had a baby. That they should start to increase their own population by marrying each other so that they could raise the kids with their own knowledge of what it meant to be both, because most of the time they just come from parents and each parent knows what it means to be of one, but not what it means to be from both. And they quickly became splintered. A lot of it was political. Some of them had anti-black sentiment. Others said, no, this isn't about being against black folks. So that was one thing. I told him that I said to them, you're going to have to face the colorism, because you're talking about setting up communities, physical communities, but you're also talking about women, generally speaking, having to choose men that are the exact same complexion they don't prefer. And the women they're not even willing to admit that they don't prefer that in many cases. And what happened? I'm going to tell you guys what we did find out. We found out that one of those who really pushed for who called for a major push and fairly aggressively also, was married to a man abundantly melanated. Nobody blamed her for it. It's just that she hid it. She was saying that, she's pretty much saying that if you light skins, you need to go ahead and look for someone light skinned to marry if you were trying to form this community. She said it, but the point I'm making is that the men in there actually said, wait a minute, now you're talking about setting up a community and you're talking about us only marrying you, but you have a preference for the men that don't have any admixture that you know about. Now that's the golden sphere. But the thing is that they actually could not go too far because of the gender war. It was only so far they could go. I waited to hear about one possible couple that would form and marry and have kids. One, and I didn't hear about one. I almost did, and it turned out, now one, they were in their 40s anyway, so fertility may not be possible. And I wasn't even going to blame them for that. They didn't meet each other until recently before that point. But he was actually interested in her. She was playing the whole time. It turned out that in actuality, she was not only not truly interested, but that she was partially making a living through phone sex. And the stuff she would say to the men that were paying her was misandric. And not only that, but she was getting their information so that they could pay her. And then she would store the evidence. And when she could find out who they were and where they lived, she would send this information to their wives to break up their marriages. That's who this chick was. She was acting all sweet and girly and feminine online. Come to find out that she was doing this. Saw with my own two eyes. It was her. She had a video where she was holding her hands over her mammaries, just talking down to some dude, calling him a bitch boy. And she had a caption in that video: "I'll make you hard, but I won't let you come." Now, I know psychologically where that comes from. That's actually very much so the epitome of what it is that Western women have been told to feel towards men. This rage towards men. It fuels a lot of what we've been dealing with and what we've been facing. So, like I said, if the war is over, you think that rage goes away overnight? And if it does, why the hell does it take a bad economy for that to be the case? No, no. Okay, so the fighting stops. And I don't want the fighting to continue if it doesn't have to. But don't drop your guards, gentlemen. Mm-mm. Don't drop your guards. I'm not even sure if they, I know that there's a hatred that I do know, and it's a pretty deep hatred. I keep learning more about how bad this hatred gets and how deep it runs. I keep learning more. I think uh, I think I have a good estimate of how bad, at least it's not. And then I learned something that shows me that no, it was deeper than what I thought it wasn't. That hatred, even if the war stops, which is good, the hatred doesn't disappear. And part of that hatred is that they just don't want to see you with someone else that will treat you better. It's like Randy in my fourth grade class. If he was terrified of you, he wouldn't do that. But you had to be bigger than him. And not only that, but you had to be bigger than him and whoever he might get to support him. And that's what I see in them for the most part. That's the way I view it. You don't have to, I didn't have to slug Randy later on, even in high school. I didn't have to slug him. When I had the pencil in my hand, I didn't have to stab him, but I had to be ready to. And that's what I see in this case. I understand that a lot of ladies are going to have mixed intentions. They're still individuals. They're going to be those who really do just, they, you know what, we don't want to participate in what we were told about anymore. Just go ahead and come back and talk. It's cold out here. Uh, it's expensive, but you know what? Having to shovel tons of snow off a driveway in the winter because they want to live up north, it's not a reason to come to the table. And there are going to be some people that are going to say, well, you know, it's not really female nature to like men like that. You want them to genuinely like you. So if they didn't demand that of us, I wouldn't demand it of them. If they do, then I demand it in return. Why do they keep insisting on demanding more than what they're willing to provide? What's the reason for that? If they want us to be there for them um, for reasons other than what we might get out of that, then why the hell is it okay for them to come back only now when things are expensive and independence is heavy and they don't want to shovel that snow and pay those bills and fix those water heaters? What's the reason for that? You know what? I don't fib a guck. Don't tell me what the reasons are. Bedouins like to tell me why they casually use the N word in their language and call us slaves casually. Well, you know, we don't use the word slave to mean slave. It's just the word that we now use for black. And I'm like, yeah, you don't like it if somebody does this to you. You're equating us with slavery. I don't care what your we don't mean any harm. It's ignorance. Yeah, I know that, but I don't care what your reasons are. I'm not going to stop calling you the T word, and it's not tourist either until you stop calling us this. I once called a guy MF in front of his relatives for that. Didn't give a rat's behind. His family were my closest friends. I still called him this in front of them. because he casually used slave and to equate it with blackness. The point I'm making is that there was a point where you had to start saying, you know what, damn the reasons. You don't tolerate this in exchange. So F all your reasons you're about to give. F your excuses. They want to be genuinely liked and loved by men, and that's not wrong if they can do the same. But in the West, they can't. So how dare they demand this? How dare they expect, let alone demand this of us? How dare they do so? That's what we should be indignant. How dare they lie? Then blame us for not knowing they're lying. Blame us for not being able to read their minds. How dare they do that? How dare they trick you into a position, then blame you for being in that position? Keep secrets from you, then blame you for not knowing the information of the secret. You know who taught them that? That's Zaddy. Zaddy does that. Zaddy turns and disables entire groups of people, not only nations and civilizations, but continents, disables them from moving forward at a normal human progressive developmental pace, and then turns around and blames them for what they're not able to pull off. And they took that from the playbook and used that on us. And then to make matters worse, they went hard in the paint after women that didn't participate in that. So that's going to be another sign that for which you are going to have to look to see if the war is truly over. They need to get up and say, you know what? Not only were the pick-me's and pick-mishas right, but damn it, them third world village women that spoil their husbands and their men, they're also right. They are actually the role models. And really, we don't even want to hear them say it per se. I don't. Actually, we want to hear them say it, but we also want to see them live it. And you're not going to see them live it if you don't see them sit not at the table that they think is the table, not at the old table, but the new table, which, as I stated, is not even located in the first world and in the West. No, it's not located where everybody wants to live to experience luxury. No, that ain't where it's located. No, it's located in places that we've heard Shahid boasting of that channel, The Middle Nation. And before him, we've heard economists and geopolitical commentators call the Global South. That's where the table's located, exactly where the Western materialistic ladies don't want to live. Tropical rainforests. That's where the table is located. Gentlemen, I've gone long enough, an hour and 15 minutes. I didn't mean for it to take this long. And I want to thank BGS for getting me to think about this. And I want to thank you all for the support from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. For the next 3 weeks, I'm going to have a lot of paper marking to do. I have to mark essays, first drafts and second drafts, and I got 27 students in my class. And I'll be doing a good bit of traveling. I'll need to. So if I go a few days in between any upload at all, I'm sorry about that. But it's just I'm that busy. As a matter of fact, I'm so busy that my phone right now, my cell phone, which is a few weeks old, has the voice SIM card turned off, and the internet SIM card is turned on. And I have to do it that way because I can't afford any phone calls. I'm so busy now. I shouldn't have even gone live now, but I did. I knew that I knew I needed to. But C.L. Edwards, I see that you shared the video, and I really I thank you from the bottom of my black heart, from the depths of my black mind, and I hope that this helps. I really do hope that this helps out the audience and those who catch this on a replay. Roger Spice, thank you so much for that. And if you're proud of me, then I hope I deserve it. I mean that. Um, but yeah, I have got the phone voice sim off because I can't afford phone calls. I'm marking papers and I'm doing stuff, and uh, I have to create assignments, make sure that we're using Blackboard for our classes. It's high tech, but it's a lot of details. There are many details. You got to get them right, or the students can't even see what's there. Um, and I'm trying to help my girlfriend with her classes too. Um, and then I'm going to have to start proofreading some exams before they're given. So um, it'll be. I mean, if I can do two of them in a week for the next 3 weeks, I'll be lucky. And if any of you have tried to call through Discord or anything like that, I'm sorry about that. I just haven't been able to even log in. And for those who have sent anything on Facebook, I'm trying to keep up, but I only go into Facebook Messenger once a week because honestly, I keep forgetting. Um, so yeah, thank you all so much. I appreciate that. And don't forget to go into the comments later and update me on what it's like where you live. Like, at least I'll then know why it is that some of you say, some of you don't. Walaikum salam, Admiral Smoke. Thank you all for tuning in and sitting with me this long. As always, black heart, black mind, blackout. And thank you for jetting black with me on Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with me until the wings and the wheels fall off. As always, gender justice forever.